Now, there's a decent-sized handful of episodes of Dororo that really stand out as being potentially the best episode of the series. I still think about Mioe's death. That episode still seems to be either the top or top 2 for me. I just love that episode, and Dororo is filled with a lot of strong episodes. But episode 17, I really think is a strong contender to be my personal favorite episode of the series, and it's because it truly is the last episode before the endgame is truly explored. It really felt like as much of a calm before the storm as we could get, and it wasn't much of a calm before the storm. There was a lot of emotions and tensions rising quite high, but it still felt like it was the last episode before everything truly will enter the end stages and see where this world and Hyakkimaru will go when it is all said and done. And I love this episode because we get reintroduced to the man who saved Hyakkimaru when he was a baby, gave him prosthetics, raised him before sending him on his way to find his family. This episode was so great because I'm sure some people are going to forget just how much bloodshed this man has caused over his years, that his entire reason to kind of make amends by kind of letting these bodies rest in peace in a very beautiful way, let them have limbs and everything that they lost on the battlefield, because he's took so much life over the years, and he knows what killing humans will do to a soul. He's been dead on the inside for how many years now? Because of Hyakkimaru, he was able to at least give some sort of comfort to a life, but now he's seeing that the baby that he saved essentially is going to walk a line of hell. The road that he's traveling is hell. He knows that road all too well. That just getting his body back, it's not even just that the kingdom will crumble before his eyes. Not only will he have to take out his family, he will have to take out so many innocent people along the way, and he knows what that will do to a soul. There's no justification for it. It doesn't matter if a lord is telling you to kill these people on these crosses because that's what you have to do. You're still taking that life, and it will haunt you until you're dead. We see that with this man. And that's what I love about this episode, because as we're exploring Hyakkimaru and his relationship, it's a conflicting thing. Because for Hyakkimaru, all he wants is his leg, but this man knows, given a leg, all he's going to do is continue killing, and even if killing demons will regain his body, once he's fully human, will he truly be a human at that point? Because it's not just demons he'll have to kill, it's not just ghouls, it's people along the way, whether those people deserve death or if they're just an innocent bystander. That's what I love, because this man has been built up to show us what happens when you kill enough innocent people. You lose who you are and you're dead on the inside. This man has his entire human body, and he is a husk of his former self. Hyakkimaru is the one thing giving him some sort of life. And I love that, because it really reinforces, especially to people who may be saying, well, it's his body, he deserves it. There is so much that he could lose along the way, so even if you are on the side of him regaining his body, there is so much he could lose. He could really lose his soul. We've seen a glimpse of that when Mioe died, and he almost became a beast, ready to just kill and care about nothing other than death and despair. And I love how the only reason he really lets him go on his way is because he says that he has someone he can trust in, that being Dororo, and that's the only reason that he lets him on his way. Because if there is someone that he truly trusts, and not an enemy, someone that he puts his faith and even could say like love in a family dynamic way in, then that could be a person who could keep him on the straight and narrow and not let himself be kind of consumed by rage and hatred, and might actually let him make the right decisions. It's such a great episode for that reason alone. And there's actually multiple layers to this episode that make it great, but that dynamic and the fact that like you get this very emotional closure, because the entire episode you're probably thinking Hyakkimaru views this man as a father, right? Because that's who raised him, that's who really has shown the most compassion for him. And when he says words that are very similar to his mother about not being able to save you, it's obviously going to shake him quite a lot. But it's a lot different, because when she said it, it's a completely different reaction than when he said it, because he didn't run away, hate him, things to that nature. He still is loving this man, and when you get the reveal that he views him as mama, and then he's just loves that compliment so much, while also being like, you're so silly, because obviously he would be the papa or the father, something like that. But Hyakkimaru's never really known a mother or a father or what that really is, but he knows that word is associated for a person who looks after a child and raises them to be a good person overall. And I love that. It's such an emotional closure, and we probably won't see this man again, and if we do, that'll be great, but this really feels like a satisfying bow to kind of conclude their story and really set Hyakkimaru on a path that even if he does regain his body, I feel like he's not just bound and determined to kill anymore. I think this man has really set his heart in a better direction, and Dororo hopefully will be able to kind of push him in the correct direction so he doesn't fall into the darkness and be consumed by rage. That's what I love about this episode, is how deep that relationship is. Because it's not just like it's a random person telling him this. This is a man who's killed so much and has lost who he was. Hell, ghouls were essentially ignoring him because he was dead on the inside. They only started to attack him once he got called Mama by Hyakkimaru. Like, it really shows you what can happen if you take too much life. And I think just that kind of dynamic, building that up with a very father and son dynamic, to also trusting that Dororo could keep him on the straight and narrow, it really sets this series in an interesting direction for its final 7 episodes, because now that we're entering the endgame, now that Hyakkimaru is going to go and see Dororo, obviously meet up with his brother, there's going to be so many things at play, and it'll be interesting to see how much life he'll have to take, and ultimately where Dororo will lead him once he regains his body, and what that treasure will do for the world as a whole. I definitely think he has changed quite a bit in 1 episode. Obviously, he wants his body back. That's all he knows. It's his body. That's what he wants it back. There's a piece of dialogue saying, like, do you even know why you want your body? And he doesn't have an answer. That's all he's really been bound and determined by, is rage to get his body back. And now that he's had this kind of like revelation, this kind of like realization of what killing could do, I really think it's going to be interesting to see where he'll go down, because now he'll put more trust into Dororo. Now he'll really think about this man who saved him, and how not everyone in this world is bad, and you can trust in people in a very select few. It'll be really interesting. We even get some pretty interesting conversations between his family members. We're seeing the mother and father talk, and how she's recognizing that the Buddha head that got blown up is the reason that his head was actually saved and that one demon couldn't feed. Now, obviously, we already know that information, so it's not really important for the viewer, but it's nice to see that the characters themselves are recognizing it. The father being clouded, being like, of course, nothing's gonna happen. The deal with the demons will continue, but of course the mother recognizes that her son is going to regain body, and that deal and this kingdom overall will crumble, and no one is really to blame but themselves, even if it will be the worst case scenario. We're seeing the brother really in a much more cold and ruthless state, thinking that the only thing that matters is to keep this kingdom safe, which is a good thing for a ruler. You want to see the ruler kind of protect the kingdom, because I think if you had any ruler who said, oh yeah, I got a brother and his body was sold to demons for the prosperity of our kingdom, let's just save the brother rather than this kingdom that I've known for all my life, versus a brother who I never knew I had until today. Like, it's a pretty sad trajectory we're seeing his brother go down. It's a lot more cold and ruthless, but you understand why. Obviously, you can see if he continues down just this path of just hatred and just, I guess you could say, cold and ruthlessness, he will easily become who his father is, which is what you don't want to see. There's a lot of kindness and compassion in his body. We've seen that with his leadership. However, you're also seeing that he's willing to burn down an entire building to kill these rats just to get the job done. It's something that's very simple, that you're just seeing a bunch of rats and a ghoul, but it kind of highlights that he's willing to burn down things to keep what he has safe. And I think it's a very dangerous trajectory that he's following, but it'll be interesting to see where that brother versus brother conflict is going to go, because they're obviously going to meet up within an episode or two, and who's going to live, who's going to die. It's going to be interesting. I think it's kind of hard to say where I want it to go, because I think there's still so many possibilities that we could follow with these brothers, but I could easily see the brother dying within an episode or two. The voice acting was really impressive, especially between Hyakkimaru and his basically father, you could say, because there was such emotion there, especially because this man never was able to talk to him, never be able to really think that this man could hear him, feel him, or anything. He was just a skinless human, essentially. And I love how Hyakkimaru is pretty much telling him that all along he could feel, all along he could hear, right? It's really an interesting bonding mechanic, because I'm sure for him, all this time he thought he was helping a person who had no idea he was actually there, knowing that this person truly loved him all along and really viewed him as a father, saving his soul, showing that even if you do monstrous things, if you have the right person, you can be pulled back to the light and become human, which is why he ultimately allows Hyakkimaru to travel to Dororo, because even if he does monstrous things, if there is a person he trusts in, he could be saved in the end, which is a really important moment. Like, this episode's so great because even though I think there's more emotional and just heart-throbbing scenes, I think this episode just ties together what we've seen in Dororo up to now so perfectly. What's at stake with the world? What's at stake with Hyakkimaru and becoming a demon if he does too many vile things? While also just showing just where all these individual characters that are quite important to the story, primarily being Hyakkimaru's family, and where they're gonna go. There's so many pieces at play that we really feel like this is now the endgame. We have reached the endgame. Everything that we've seen up till now has been reinforced. We understand the stakes in terms of the world, Hyakkimaru's character, and how he could easily become a demon once he regains his body, and it's quite interesting. It's really satisfying because this man, I remember in the early stages, I loved seeing. I thought he was such a great character, and I'm glad we got a really satisfying conclusion with him. And you can tell the care that went into this episode, not even just visually, but also with just the overall audio direction in terms of the raw and real voice acting. I think the end game is going to be incredibly emotional, incredibly gripping. There's going to be a lot of bloodshed, but ultimately the thing I'm most excited to see now is when he regains his body, what is that going to look like, and what will he have to sacrifice to regain what was taken from him, and ultimately will Dororo be enough for him to stay human rather than being consumed by rage and becoming someone who's just so dead on the inside that you can't even recognize them as being a human. There's a lot of interesting routes that they can now go down, and I'm really excited for the future. I mean, I thought on one hand, I was like, if we're taking a break from focusing on Dororo and going right back to Hyakkimaru, I wonder if the pacing will feel off because we just had an incredible shark adventure last week, but I actually think this was the right direction. Show both sides of what's been happening while they've been separated to now reunite them to see where the bloodshed, carnage, and also hopefulness will go in the future. This was an incredible episode of Dororo. Honestly, one of my favorites, possibly my favorite. It'll take some time to really kind of determine which one is my favorite because Mioe's death episode has still been in my head ever since I saw it, but still, this was an incredible episode of Dororo. But for everyone who watched, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Did you love it? Did you hate your favorite moment? Let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.